What if I told you guys there are a handful of little simple things that you could do to save, first of all, thousands of dollars, to save time and weeks of frustration, and a whole lot of unnecessary stress when buying a property in Mexico. There are, things that we've been experiencing with as being a seller's agent and buyer's agent that you wish that you have as a buyer, that you knew or that you know as a buyer. So all of this is going to be insider knowledge, and you will be very happy to have this information, because by the end of this video you will know how to avoid the most common pitfalls, the most common mistakes, how to ask the right questions, and how to set yourself up for a much smoother, more enjoyable, more successful purchase, even if you are not working with the most experienced broker. That this happens a lot. You don't even know that your broker does not have a lot of experience, and then you go in with him because he sent you the right property, but maybe there's a lot of mistakes that you can avoid. So before we jump in, I want to give you a little bit of context on why we're doing this live. Here at Amoramat, we represent both buyers and sellers. And through our experience, specifically in the resale side of the market, we are like in the front row of seeing the transactions from different angles. So over the years, we've seen situations, Brandy, that have surprised us a lot, because some important details are being overlooked by your broker. Also, like the deadlines are missed, or buyers weren't properly guided through the whole process. And in many cases, it wasn't because anyone had, like, of course, bad intentions or anything. It was just simply lack of experience with the resale transactions. So you have to know that a lot of agents in the Riviera Maya, they have built maybe super successful careers selling pre-sale construction. We even had brokers that said, I've sold this and this amount of this amount of properties. But yes, it's completely different selling a pre-sale by selling a resale, because the resale market has its own considerations and nuances. And when an agent's experience is primarily in the pre-sale space, there can be important details that can get missed, leaving you as a buyer exposed to completely unnecessary stress, delays, cost, taxes that maybe you shouldn't be paying, or risk that could be completely avoided. So today we're pulling back the curtain and showing you what should be happening behind the scenes during the resale transaction. Our goal in this live is to show you the steps on how your realtor should, every step that your realtor should be taking to protect you throughout all the process, and the questions that should be asked, and the things that should never be overlooked. And if you see that they are overlooked, that you can go and say, hey, you, my realtor, pay attention to this and that, or have you made sure that you check this or that, correct?
100%.
Now, guys, are you excited about it? Let's see who is connected. Let's start, Brandy.
Okay, so like Carla mentioned in our last video, we took you through touring the property, and we ended right at submitting your offer to purchase. So there are 4 protections every offer must have, and that first one is escrow. I'm sure most of our foreign buyers are familiar with what escrow is. However, it's not super common here in Mexico with Mexican sellers and buyers, but it is something that we always make sure is in the offer to purchase. So, for example, escrow is there to protect you and to protect your funds. Imagine wiring your money, your reservation, your deposit directly into the seller's account, and then the seller goes quiet before the entire transaction can be completed.
Plus, we are in the Riviera Maya. This is a completely vacational spot. So maybe the owner doesn't even live here, and then you have to find him in another part of Mexico or in another part of the world, and how do you get your money back?
Exactly. So we make sure that the offer states that all funds are going to go through escrow, that your reservation is also going to be fully refundable, because at that point you are only going to be having a contract as the buyer with the escrow company. So using escrow, your funds are always going to be fully and completely protected, and you're not putting yourself at any risk.
Okay, great. Now, still in the offer to purchase, okay, there's another point that you have to take into consideration. And this is something, guys, that we see like almost no one is seeing it. Because as from August of last year, 2025, there is a new law in Mexico. And this is, if you are buying a property that it is like lower than the market price, and you're like, yeah, this is a great opportunity, and then you start and go all the way to putting the offer into a contract, there is a new tax in Mexico, and is that from there has to be an appraisal of the property, and if the appraisal tells you that the market price is $500,000 and you're buying it for $300,000, well, you have to pay a tax, which is for the foreign buyers. It's going to be at 25% from the earnings from the difference, which is $200,000. And maybe if this wasn't explained to you and the appraisal comes in a super high price, you have to make sure that you do a strategy for that. There's different strategies. The first thing that you have to do is to make sure you put that in the offer. You protect yourself before, because imagine just thinking that you're getting a great deal by signing the agreement, but in the moment that you're with a notary, you find out either that you owe a super huge amount of taxes to the government, or if you see that and you say like, hey, well, if I pay that, then it's not an opportunity anymore, then and you back up from the agreement, then you obviously have to pay the penalty to break the agreement to the seller. So that is something very important. How to solve this, Brandy? The best way to do it is get the fiscal evaluation before signing your promissory agreement. Okay, have a proper tax evaluation done before the offer is before signing the agreement. The offer can be accepted, and that's okay. But in your offer, you're putting, hey, this is ¿cómo se dice?
The
Conditioned on the price of the appraisal. Of why? Because it will give you the full clarity of the cost before of the whole deal, okay, with your earnings and how much are you gonna be paying. That is the main thing. Obviously, there's other strategies to do when you have your when you're about to sign the deed, that will come after. But from the offer to purchase, that's something that you have to look, or your broker has to look, if you are buying something that is below the market price.
Of course. And that's super common right now in Tulum with the market correction. There's tons of amazing opportunities out there, but this tax is something that you need to keep your eye on. And like we mentioned, being both buyer and seller representatives, we've been on the listing agent side and seen lots of brokers submit an offer to purchase
without
considering the taxes, having the promissory agreement signed,
sending the down payment, and like with their penalties,
and the evaluation is still to come, and the buyer has no idea what the tax will look like.
Exactly, because not only are you paying a tax for buying a property, but also for your earning if the valuation says that you're having an earning. Okay.
So the other thing that must be in your offer to purchase,
which is the third point.
Yes, is that the offer is going to be conditional on due diligence. So your lawyer is going to need time to verify the title, if there's liens, HOA obligations, permits, the legal status, and it's also on the seller to provide all of these documents to you. So due diligence can't happen properly if you're already locked in to a deal that isn't conditional. So imagine you've put down a reservation, maybe you've even paid your deposit, and the lawyer ends up finding an issue, or the notary tells you that you're not going to be able to sign. So not only have you now possibly lost money, depending on how you've been providing that throughout your transaction, but you've also lost time and maybe another opportunity that has
If
come
there
and
was
gone.
a second option or something. So you have to set up also the date on, like, if you do not give me all the paperwork for my attorney to check it, then I'm going to pull off of the deal because there's other opportunities as well.
Exactly. And another thing to note is that not all listing agents or seller representatives do the proper due diligence on the properties that they're listing. So you can't always count on something you're seeing is even
Already
available.
checked.
Exactly. So a way to protect yourself here is if your lawyer ends up finding a problem and you're able to either renegotiate in your contract or the purchase price, or you get to walk away all clear, no problem.
Without losing too much time.
Exactly.
Right? Okay, guys. So the fourth thing that you have to consider in your offer to purchase, which is the first step of this video, is the property condition and the inventory. Guys, the Mexico properties will sell at corpus as they are if we are again in a resale market.
Mhm.
So unlike North America, the sellers, that sorry.
So it's just very common
In
in
North
North
America.
America that when you purchase a house, there's going to be nothing in it. Something I found to be a little bit different when I moved here and working in real estate here is the properties come as are, furnished and how you saw them.
Specifically here in Riviera Maya, because this is a market of second homes, the owners will sell their properties completely furnished. So if you like the property, you have to make sure that it comes furnished. You put that in the offer. Is it gonna, because I like the furniture, is it gonna come furnished? Because that will save you a lot of, a big percentage of your cost, because you're not gonna furnish it again. But if you do not like the furniture, you also have to put in your offer to purchase that you don't want it there, because to take out the furniture is also a problem that maybe you don't need. So that on furniture, but also if you need something to be fixed. For example, if you arrive to see a kitchen that has, I don't know, leaking problems or whatever, this is something that you could ask. Having an inspection or something that you see that something is not really good, then you can put that on your offer to negotiate that, of course. Now, be sure that you add this afterwards in the contract as an annex. I've had situations, and it happened to me once in Merida, okay, and I won't forget that. That even that the buyer had its lawyer, the lawyer did not include an annex with the furniture included, and it was a big house, and the furniture was expensive, so it was just an agreement made by the brokers and the sellers and an offer to purchase or whatever, but it was not in a contract signed as an annex. And what happens, imagine arriving to your complete new house where you're expecting this beautiful furniture, and then suddenly you arrive and it's completely empty. And how can you take that? Like, well, the seller obviously was like, well, but I didn't sign and I didn't sign this in the contract. Oh, but you said it, but whatever. It wasn't. And this is something that the lawyers maybe will overlook also, because the attorneys will be very specific on putting all their attention on having the property going from one person to the other, and maybe those kind of details will be overlooked.
There is also two other things, notable mentions that should be in the offer to purchase. One is your payment structure with dates. Some sellers are a little bit more easygoing than others. Others are more strict and sticklers for those dates. So it's really important that you have laid out your payment structure, and then you're able to follow it even before the promissory agreement is signed. Another thing that we like to share with all of our clients is that here in Mexico, having a property inspection is not super common. and not really expected like it is in North America. So we like to share with our clients that you can always have an inspection done, especially if you're feeling a little bit nervous or insecure about the property, but it cannot be used as a negotiating chip after the offer to purchase has been put in. So if you've walked a property that you really love, but maybe you've noticed there's a couple of things that stuck out to you that you want checked, have the inspection done before your offer to purchase, and then include that in the offer to purchase. Otherwise, like Carla mentioned, you're free to get the inspection after the fact, but the property will be coming ad corpus, as it was when you saw it, when you initially walked through, and when you put in your offer to purchase.
Okay, remember, we're explaining you the closing process of the resale market, which is it's different from a pre-sale market. We're gonna get you through that process in another video. Correct? Now, we've covered everything that includes the offer. The offer protects you at the entry level. Now, the phase that determines whether your purchase is actually safe is the following: doing the correct due diligence and the contract. Guys, as the buyer, you own the contract process. You are the one who choose who is going to be your attorney, how they work, and that will shape your entire deal. And we've seen, sorry that I'm talking super passionate, but like this is all about experience. If you choose a bad lawyer, really don't do it. Many things can happen. There are attorneys that won't follow timelines, that will put their ego on front of everything, not caring if you lose a great opportunity. Or there's like the typical attorneys, Brandy, that they choose the wrong, the wrong battles, that they are like pushing towards a clause that is completely insignificant, fighting for something that isn't worth fighting, and just creating a complete stress to the transaction, where if it is, again, a good opportunity, obviously a seller that knows that he's selling on a good price will say, you know what, let's move to the other buyer that comes after you, because it's too much stress. And this happens a lot when because normally your broker will give you, I don't know, 2 or 3 quotes of vetted attorneys that he knows that works well and that he has worked with them before. And from those you can choose. But sometimes there's buyers that don't even listen to the broker, or they just get another attorney from maybe another country or another state, and they do not know the laws here in Quintana Roo that are completely different from other states, and they will just stress that transaction. So of course you need the lawyer that will represent you, that will do the correct due diligence, that will protect you in all of the clauses that you are putting, because you are the one that is putting the money. You are the one that is giving the money to the seller without having your property. The seller has the property, he has the full protection, but you are the one that has to be protected. There's actually some situations, Brandy, that I've seen in brokers that are new to resales, that there's always like this little, fight between brokers, listing agent, and buyer's agent, which is like, who does the contract? And then a buyer's agent that normally is not familiar with resales, he will be like, oh, can you provide me the contract? It's like, wait, what? How come will you ask the seller to provide the contract if you're the one that is giving the money? You have to make sure that your lawyer, as a buyer, provides you the contract.
Of course. And the seller isn't going to put money forward before anything's secure. They're not going to spend money to create contracts, not knowing that they're going to be signed 100%.
Now, this happens a lot because brokers that are very, very, that have a lot of pre-sale transactions done are very accustomed that the developer provides the contract, because of course they have like a complete lawyer segment in their company, and they will have like the typical drafts, no? But if you are on a resale, you as a buyer are providing the contract.
100%. So, another thing that a pro broker will do that not all brokers do is ask for additional things that maybe the notary or the lawyer won't ask for.
That in the majority of the cases, they do not ask for it.
So, notaries are asking only for the things that are needed to transfer the title and no more. So, any documents that are needed to move from one owner to the next. And Carla, you actually have a really interesting story about this.
Yeah, I knew the situation from another broker, which is like, okay, the title was transferred from one person to the other, everything was okay, all the paperwork was given, everything was signed, that the property was transferred, I mean delivered and everything. And then a few months passed, and the owner was like, where's I am not receiving a CFE bill, which is the light bill. What's happening? Well, whatever, maybe it will come later, and maybe it has a delay, so it didn't come. So after a few months, she received a huge fine, guys, of CFE, of the light, the light company coming and saying, hey, you've been robbing light from us for a whole year. So because of this, you have this amount of fine. Obviously, the buyer was completely in shock, and she was like, hey, well, wait a second, I didn't even know this. And this was because the previous owner was robbing the light, okay? And since the notary or nor your attorney asked for that little document, which is a bill, this can happen. And this is very important because an experienced broker will ask for that.
Yes. So an experienced broker is going to ask for the CFE bill. They're going to ask for Airbnb license status if the property's already been operating as a rental, or if you're wanting to continue that. And another thing that,
because there's also fines for Airbnb rentals.
Yes. And another thing that hardly anybody ever asks for are HOA minutes. Oof. So if you're purchasing into a condo building where you're going to be you're paying into an HOA, there can be outstanding balances, water bills, property tax, rental agreements. Maybe the buildings agreed that rents have to be in between a certain amount. And if you're not privy to all this information before making your purchase or having that as part of your due diligence, then you can always end up walking into a surprise.
Imagine not knowing that the building where you're buying the condo has a major problem. I don't know, a major leak, a major disaster that the building has. And obviously the seller won't tell you that because maybe he just wants to sell. So asking for that little document that I only see this on like mega extra pro brokers that ask for it. It is very important. So if your broker is not asking for it, make sure you tell him like, hey, please ask for it. Okay. Now, guys, everything about the due diligence is done. The contract is already checked. Your clauses are protecting you. The contract is signed. Here is where the guard goes down. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, the broker, the buyer, and the seller, and everyone relaxes. And this is exactly when the deals could quietly fall apart and can make you be on a breach of contract and make you pay penalties. And this is what I'm going to tell you next is very, very important. Guys, titling takes time, and someone has to drive it and has to have the leadership of it. Okay, so once the promissory agreement is, everything is signed, the escrow is funded, the titling process begins. So the notary will start to ask for, all the paperwork that it needs, the documents and certifications that the property needs, and this and that. Also, you as a foreign buyer, you need the fideicomiso to be done. And the fideicomiso takes time, which is the bank.
Yes, or if a fideicomiso needs to be dissolved.
Or if a fideicomiso also needs to be dissolved, that takes a lot more time. So if there's no one to coordinate the notary, the attorney, the seller, and the bank trust, someone that is like, hey, what are you missing? Okay, and checking all the emails and everything like a maniac, as we do, then what can happen is that time can pass, and if you are putting on the promissory agreement that you have a specific date for you to sign and you do not comply on that date, guess what? You're on a breach of contract and you have to pay a penalty clause because you didn't even know that there was a problem of timing and of someone being over it. And specifically, guys, again with a fideicomiso, the delays can make deals fall apart.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the best thing to do? Have your buyer's agent, have your agent coordinate every piece and notify you about everything, checking the notary, the attorney, the bank trust, the administration, the escrow, everything. Something critical also that many people miss out is that, for example, there's a date for you to put the final payment, and you decide as a buyer to put that final payment on the date of the signing of the deed. Guess what? You're sending the funds from an international account. And the international account, of course, takes around, I don't know, 5 working days to have the money put in the escrow, and then the escrow to put it to the sellers. And guess what? The seller can tell you, oops, sorry, buyer, I'm here in the notary. I do not have the funds, and you, just because you didn't consider timing and strategy, then you have to pay me the penalty. And guess what? It's going to be around 20% of the purchase price.
Mm-hmm. Crazy.
Crazy. And it's, as we told you, super simple things that you have to take note. And if your broker is not paying attention to this, you pay attention as a buyer.
100%. So now everything is in place and closing day is finally here, but there are still a couple of things that could possibly go wrong. So there are 3 things that you need to keep in mind that you need to get when you are at the notary. The first one, the signed deed. The second one, a registry date from the notary, and you need to get your invoice or your factura of the sale. And all 3 of these have long-term consequences if you do not secure them the day of the closing. So for example, imagine this: you've purchased your property, you've lived in it, you've enjoyed it, and now you want to resell your property and you didn't get the factura. Now when you list your property and when you sell, the tax authority is going to calculate your capital gain as if you've paid nothing. So for example, say you purchased your home for $1 million, and when it's time to resell it, it's listed at $1.5 million. Instead of just paying the tax on that $500,000
that you have earning,
they're going to tax you as if you paid nothing. So on the full $1.5 million.
So like paying 3 times or 4 times more than you should just because you did not ask for the factura. Now it's very important for you to know the factura. If a company is selling to you, that company has to give it to you. If it is a physical person, not a company selling to you, normally the notary gives a factura. But specifically when the company is selling to you, you have to pay attention for that, because it can happen that years pass by and then you try to contact the company and the company maybe is dissolved, it doesn't exist, the owners, I'm sorry, whatever, are dead or whatever, and then you cannot get your factura.
Yeah,
right?
100%. And another thing to note is that registry can take up to 6 months after you've signed the deed. So without a registry date from the notary, you have no way of following up or proof of the transfer.
Something important to just add up about the factura thing. This is something that is more or less new from 2013 in Mexico. However, since 3 years ago, the government was still already was flexible about okay, if you don't have your factura, I can give you a chance or whatever. But 3 years from now, before now, the government is you don't have the factura, give me money.
100%. So your broker needs to ensure that you leave the closing with a signed copy of the deed, a confirmed registry timeline, and your factura, and you need to file it because you're going to need it.
All right, guys, let's go to our final point, which is You already signed the deed. Now let's go together and go to have the property in your hands and your keys, okay? The seller is gonna be like, here, Brandy, here's the keys, bye-bye. And then guess what? You're gonna arrive to the property. But your broker did not make sure to go and see the property 1 or 2 days before to check that everything was correct, given the annex and the contract, and check, do the checklist. Do that. Is the TV of how many inches there, or is it a little TV? Right? Guys, at the end, the delivery day is too late to fix the problems. When you're there and you already signed and you already gave the money, like you cannot, even for example in deliveries of resales, not even the broker goes to the delivery. It's you and your buyer's agent. The seller's agent is not even there. It's gonna be, they're gonna give it to you on the notary, and it's gonna be like, hey, here you go, right? So it is very important to solve anything that you see before signing the deed, and that is a responsibility that your broker has to go to the property and check that, I don't know, the furniture that you saw on the pictures is not damaged. There is not like a, I don't know, a major damage, because at the end you are buying the property as you exposed it in the annex of your promissory agreement. So the right way to do it is to push your broker and say like, hey, my buyer's agent, did you already go and see the property before I give the money and sign the deed? Okay, so that's very, very important, so you don't have surprises.
And then the final step that often a lot of brokers will skip is post closing. So closing doesn't necessarily end at the property delivery. So CFE needs to be transferred, building administration introductions need to happen, there's remotes, access cards, parking, so many little things that are left over. And if your broker disappears and you're left to figure all of this out on your own, it can definitely be super stressful. So it's important that your broker helps you in this handoff and gives you the knowledge and the tools to register your CFE, to make sure that if you're within a building that the administration knows that there's new owners, what unit they're for, and just help you receive the property and everything that follows it with ease, so it makes it a lot more enjoyable.
And mostly if you are buying a property that is your second home and you're not here, maybe you have to go to your back home and then come back in a few months after. And if you don't, if your broker did not make sure that everything is handled to you in the right way with a good communication with the administration, everything, it's gonna be a headache. Maybe it won't cost you a lot, but it is going to be a headache.
Yeah, it can
Guys,
definitely be
let
a lot
me
of
see
stress.
if we have some viewers here. Let me see something. Here we are. Let's see. Okay, guys, do you have any questions? Están hermosos. Ay, you too. All right. So let's go, and I'm gonna prepare you for something very interesting, guys. But before we go there. So, just wrapping up today's live. The biggest takeaway that we want to leave you here is that buying a property in Mexico doesn't have to be overwhelming. Many people see it as like, oh my God, no. You just have to be informed. That's the only thing, or you just have to work with a good broker. If you don't want to be informed, just work with the right brokers that will guide you, guys. The better equipped you are, the better protected you will be. Okay, to ask the right questions and to avoid unnecessary surprises and to protect yourself throughout the whole process. We also want to tell you again, the resales, or well, the pre-sales, more, they have had a little bit of a bad reputation in the Riviera Maya over the years, of course, because at the end there are too many delays. There are developers that are not delivering, etc., etc. And this is what we're gonna talk about later on in another video, where we explain the main difference between the pre-sales and the resales. In this video, we just saw like how to protect yourselves in resales, something tangible that you can see, and you can see the property already. And there's really good opportunities in both pre-sales and resales. You just have to know the process and to feel safe that you are well protected.
100%.
What else, Brandy?
Um,
Just make sure that you are in our next live, guys, because this last week, we saw 3 amazing properties.
Carla's been super excited
I
about them.
can't really. I really want to show them to you in our next live. People who are like maybe preoccupied about like, oh, Sargasso in the Riviera Maya or whatever, we're going to show you an area in Quintana Roo that receives almost zero Sargasso and that the prices are going up and it has a lot of appreciation and I'm super excited. This is going to be in our next live.
Next week.
So make sure to subscribe to our channel, to follow us, and to be pendant. All right, guys. For those of you that don't know us, I'm Carla Torres. I'm the CEO of Amor Amar here. With me is Brandy Fry, Canadian real estate investor, and we're both certified agents here in the Riviera Maya. So we will walk you through every step of the process from choosing and guiding you to select the best property, as we saw in the last video, and to close your property in the right way, avoiding mistakes, rookie mistakes. All right. So thank you so much for spending this evening with us, and we'll see you the next week.
Bye.
Bye bye.